Okay, since Minnie is doing a perfect job of sitting there and looking pretty, I think I'll do my video here. Start off with a question about Salmonella. Have I ever been ill whilst I've had leopard geckos? I know there is a thing with Salmonella and leopard geckos. I think I just sort of turned a blind eye to it when I really wanted one. I've never been ill due to my leopard geckos. I wash my hands in between holding each gecko, and I definitely wash my hands thoroughly after I've held my geckos, because you never know, you might just pick up something to eat. I'm pretty much obsessed with washing my hands. It's a little bit OCD, but it's, you know, if you want to be clean and healthy, that's what you got to do. Is it easier purchasing a younger or older gecko? Okay, so I got one gecko, Ziggy, when he was 3 weeks old, and I got Diego when he was like 5 or 6 months old. To be honest, his age wasn't really specified because I got him from a pet shop and they thought he was a girl, so it wasn't very helpful pet shop. It depends, because if you get an older gecko, there's a sort of thing that someone's had it as a pet usually and they're selling it on. So really check that it has been cared for correctly, and I know they can get metabolic bone disease, I think, if you're not given them the right vitamins. So check all that and find out the real reason why they're getting rid of their gecko. Maybe they just need more space or they won't be able to take care of it. If it's tame with them, it'll probably be tame with you. Sometimes actually the older ones can be easier because they're already tamed, whereas the younger ones it gets a bit getting used to because they're a bit scared of giant hands. So it doesn't really matter, really. It just depends whether you just want one from a young age or whatever. But from my experience, geckos are really easy to bond with. Okay, the next question is it true that you can see straight through a leopard gecko's ear at the right angle? This is true. It's not transparent, so you can't see clear, but it's more like translucent. You can definitely sort of pick up figures and stuff. You probably won't be able to see it yet, but can you see that light up? I'm shining a torch through her other ear, so you can see light travels through it. But yeah, at the right angle you can see lights and figures. Do they need heat mats? Yes, leopard geckos need heat mats. They come from Asia, around sort of Pakistan, places like that. One thing I'm going to just add in, it wasn't a question but something that bugs me a little bit, is when people say, oh, they're a lizard, they're from a desert and so on, and well, actually leopard geckos are from sort of dry rocky lands, and there are grasslands with that, so ideally they don't need sand for substrate, and having eco-earth isn't bad because where there's grasslands there's dirt. I know this isn't actually asked, but just to go over, and I know I've said this in why geckos don't need a light, but geckos do not bask, okay? Some reptiles do, and they need that to absorb the vitamins. Now in the wild, a gecko will go underneath the rocks to get away from the sun. That tells you that they don't require the sun to absorb any vitamins, because naturally they'll go under rocks and cool down, just get heat from the rocks but not from the sun, and they only come out at night, so they don't actually need UV in the same way, say, like a bearded dragon needs it. So that's why I do not use lighting. Geckos don't need that same sort of UV. If you've got a lot of reptiles and a lot of them need lighting, you can just assume that geckos are the same because they're a lizard, but they're not. They have different requirements. Naturally they live differently, so you know, they just need a heat mat. That's my rant over. Would a 12-watt heat mat get to the right heat, or is that too much heat and they're using a timer? I use a 7-watt, it's 6 by 11 inches. Yeah, I think 12-watt might go a bit too hot, and yeah, have it on, coming on about say 7 or 8 in the morning, going off about 11 at night. Next question, how long do they live? usually 20 years or more. So obviously if you're going to get one as a pet, it is quite a big commitment. Okay, another question was, how do leopard geckos sleep without eyelids? Leopard geckos actually have a unique thing of actually having eyelids. A lot of geckos don't. As you can see here, Minnie's definitely got eyelids, and yeah, they just close them when they go to sleep. So they actually look quite cute when they sleep, and they blink, as you can see. Okay, so I've had a few questions about feeding. Someone's struggling to feed their 1-month-old because it won't eat anything, and another person says, oh yeah, the gecko won't eat crickets, it just likes mealworms. Problem with feeding geckos mealworms is they get kind of lazy because mealworms are just on a dish, and all the gecko has to do is just put its head over the dish and pick up as many as they like, whereas crickets you actually have to hunt for it. That's why my geckos, as soon as they're sort of on feeding, they've always been fed on crickets. So I think basically the one with the mealworms, I think maybe your gecko might be lazy. So what you want to do is when you try to feed it crickets, can I just say that cricket is alive, it's just very good at being in front of the camera. First of all, make sure you got the right size cricket. I made a sizing guide so you can click on a link to go to that or just search it on my channel. Feed your crickets fruit because geckos sort of can tell when the fruit has changed, and sometimes they all sort of go off the crickets with a different fruit, but usually I use apple or oranges. First of all, you could try taking off its legs, and I know that sounds harsh, but its back legs, then it's sort of like a mealworm, if you know what I mean. It's not jumping about. You can put it in a food dish, see how that goes, and then your gecko might get the taste for it. And then eventually move on to it actually sort of chasing it, and if it got a taste for it, it should taste it. Another thing you can do is hand feeding. I've been doing that with Minnie lately because she was born with like a dodgy eye, so just trying to get a way to get her to get more food. Oh, cricket's on the move. It's got a dodgy leg. You see that? What's going on there? I'm going to try to hand feed her, but she doesn't seem very interested in food. Sometimes the times you feed your crickets, the times you feed your geckos can alter whether they want to eat or not. See, at the moment it's 7 o'clock, and I think that might be why Minnie's not eating, because usually if they get fed, because I'm pretty much as nocturnal as they are, I feed them maybe midnight or even later actually sometimes. So this is probably early, this is probably why she's not interested. Yeah, if you're going to feed your gecko, feed them in the evening, probably 7 or 8 o'clock if you can, because that's obviously when they're most active. And with the 1-month-old, I want to make another video, like a bigger video about feeding, because geckos are really irritating sometimes in a way that they don't always want to eat. Like Minnie right now, nah, she's not interested. There could be a cricket right outside her mouth and she won't bother eating it. So geckos are very strange when it comes to food. It could be the time of the year and stuff like that, so I want to make a bigger video about that, and hopefully that will help some people. Okay, so hopefully this has helped and I've answered all your questions. Thank you for your questions. Sorry this hasn't been the most visually interesting video, but this is Minnie. And if you like, you can follow me on Instagram. I usually photograph something new every day, and if I'm filming you'll probably know first on there. So yeah, check out my Instagram, and thank you for watching.